Hi everyone, my name is Lisa, I'm an industrial designer, and in this video I'm going to be answering your questions about industrial design that you asked me on Instagram. So let's get started. So I have already answered a couple of questions on my Instagram stories, but I'm gonna repeat them here in case you missed those stories and you don't want to get back to them. So yeah, I have my questions here, and yeah, let's start. So the first question was about how many years am I working in this industry? So it all started back in 2017 when I was a sophomore industrial design student, and I actively started looking for freelance projects. I actually have a separate video about my journey and how I started all of that, which I will link below, so you can check it out and find more about all the nuances. But like generally speaking, yes, it started back in 2017. And at that time, I was just looking for one-time freelance projects to gain some initial experience. And it was chaotic. It was like one project at a time. And I would say in a half of a year, it evolved into something bigger. So I started getting more projects, like more frequently. I started getting around 2 or 3 projects that I was working all at the same time, because I soon found out that for me, it's just much more efficient to take a couple of projects instead of like focusing on something one, because yeah, it's just my personal approach that I find the most efficient one. So, for example, I start with one project and I work on it for, let's say, an hour. And then, like, I change like my attention from that project to the second one. I brainstorm on it, and then I get back to the first one. So it's always a fresh eye approach that you apply to multiple projects. And I think when you're working on the same thing during the whole day, it makes you kind of miss the details, and very likely you're gonna hate this project very, very soon, which I always try to avoid. So yeah, that's my personal approach, and I know that it's such a privilege to kind of choose your work style, because I work for myself and I can do pretty much whatever I want. And it's not necessarily like that if you work for a company that has their own approaches, that has their own deadlines, etc. Moving on to the next question. What is the most important skill to learn for a product designer? That's a really challenging question to answer, because I can't name one skill. It's a combination of various skills that you need to have. You can't only learn one thing and then call yourself a designer. Well, the first and foremost would definitely be creative thinking and problem solving through human-centered approach. That's definitely the fundamental thing you should learn, because it's not only the skill, but it's the mindset that you need to kind of learn throughout the time and practice. At the same time, you can't be a designer without a skill of visualizing your ideas. Of course, you can formulate your concepts in words, but you have to then transform those words into visuals and share your ideas with the team, with the clients, etc. So definitely sketching, rough prototyping, rendering skills are very, very important. And another thing is definitely you have to understand the manufacturing techniques and methods in order to be able to kind of produce products and solutions that are applicable to the current technologies. Because if you're only able to come up with creative ideas, but you don't know how to adapt them to the current situation in the world and the current possibilities, it's not going to end anywhere, because clients hire you to produce real projects, real products that users will later on buy at stores. And even if you're highly creative, you still need to have those at least basic manufacturing methods knowledges. Of course, your mechanical engineer will definitely help you with that, but still, if you design something unmanufacturable in the first place, it's going to be a waste of time, you know. So the next question is, what has been your biggest challenge in the field of design? I would say, like, to start off with, I think I've learned all of the basic skills at university, but then something that I struggled most with was, I would say, networking, because nobody taught us to do that. Nobody explained how important that was. So I simply didn't know how to start a conversation, like a business related conversation. Another thing is that I know that all universities have a different approach to that, but my university did not teach us how to put together a portfolio. So, yes, we had some projects that we worked on during our studies, but I didn't have the actual portfolio that I could use to apply to jobs. And I had to spend so much time going through portfolios in the internet, like on Behance and other resources, learning from YouTube, like other designers, how they do that and what is even needed to build a portfolio. It took a great amount of time for me to find out how it all works. So I would say this was pretty much the main challenge for me. But of course, when you work for yourself, you have to also figure out how you can get new clients and how you can even like make a consistent income. But that's, I would say, that's apart from design, that's more of a management type of thing. But still, yes, it is also applicable to my case, because it all that formulates the way how I work. So yeah, so many challenges. I can talk about them like for forever, really, because I would say there were more challenges than something that ended up being very simple. That's the reality of our world. So, moving on to the next question, which is, do we need to know about the mechanical aspects of products that we show in our portfolios? I'm not sure if I get the question correctly, but well, generally speaking, whatever you put in your portfolio, you should be able to explain very clearly how it works, why you made certain decisions, and why the solution that you ended up with is the best possible one, and why none of the rest of the solutions works for this particular case. But if we talk about some very particular elements, let's say electronics and those components that only work technically and have nothing to do with ergonomics and like those details that are super super technical, no, you don't have to explain that. So for example, if you're working on, I don't know, a keyboard design, you don't necessarily have to be able to explain what is the connection between every single button and how the information is transformed into the electrical signal. No, you don't have to know that, because again, you work with a mechanical engineer in the team, like always. And I think you have this question because you haven't worked yet on the real projects, because like when you team up with an engineer, you kind of start to see the difference between like a designer and engineer, you know? And if you're currently a student, what I can suggest you do is find a mechanical engineer student of your age, maybe not your age, it doesn't matter, and just see how they approach the projects that they work on. Maybe suggest working on a collaboration. Let's say you're working on the product from the design aspect, and he or she will develop the technical side. And here you kind of have both right now. So you have a complete project that is ready to be manufactured. And while working with an engineer, you will see the limits of design, like the limits of I would say what a designer should do and what a mechanical engineer should do, where his part of the work starts, you know? So yeah, I hope this answers your question. I'm not sure though. So these were all the questions I was going to answer in this video, which is part 1 of the Q&A series. So if you have more questions, you can always write them below this video and I'm going to be answering them in the next one. So yeah, thanks for all of your questions. Thanks for watching and I'm going to see you in the next one.